All right, let's talk about Tony Harrison versus Tim Tszyu. Well, I didn't think that fight would go like that. See, from round 1 to round 6, I don't worry about Tony. Tony's good. It's only in them 7th and 8th, them later rounds that you got to worry about Tony. So I wasn't expecting to be concerned about Tony till, we get past the 6th or the 7th round. When I was watching the fight, I instantly noticed when it got to the 3rd round, Harrison was tired. He was either tired or checked out or both. But he was tired. I seen that in the 3rd round. I was like, oh, this is different. You know what I'm saying? And the other thing that he gave up was he gave up his lateral movement. His defense wasn't there at all, especially the defense that he had in them Charlo fights. His defense was tight. It wasn't there. He wasn't protecting himself in the right way. And he was abusing his jab, you know what I'm saying, with nothing to follow up with it. That jab don't have enough stank on them punches to keep somebody like Tim Tszyu off of you. So he was throwing a jab without nothing to follow up with it, just to throw a jab. He abused his jab. Jabbing is for probing, distance finding, keeping a guy knocked off center, setting up punches, distraction, and all that. That's not what he uses jab for. He uses jab for exactly what you've seen. Tap, 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 and that's about it. But then follow up with no right hand, didn't show no other punch selections of punches that he could have thrown or combinations that he put together. It was just weird. He was very linear, back and forth. No lateral movement. And what's most important is he gave up too much real estate. He was giving up too much real estate. You can't just be on the back foot that entire time. He should have had to learn to stand his ground after a while, and that helped with his fatigue. But he didn't follow those jabs up with nothing. Yeah, he did great the first round. That's what we expected. I expected him to have 3 or 4 more rounds like that before we even started to see something. But the Tony that I know and that we know of, that wasn't him that night. Point blank and period. Which leads me to believe, Tony, great fighter, but Tony's done. You're done, Tony, because Tony's always been a good front runner. He's had problems on the back end. This time, he had problems on the front end and the back. So it's about time to hang them up. You know what I'm saying? And I thought that he would at least put on a better showing. He owed it to himself to put on a better showing than that. He really did. He ain't look nothing like the Tony that we know of. But it is what it is. And he can't talk a gang of shit like that without even backing it up, at least for 4 rounds. He didn't even do that. But I just think, Tony is pretty much done with boxing. I mean, you can watch the boxing match and tell that, that's pretty much it for Tony. You know what I'm saying? Nonetheless, still love Tony. Great entertainer, great talker, great fighter. I wish he could have put on a more better performance than that, but it is what it is. Tim Tszyu beat Tony Harrison. Hey, that's just the way it is at the end of the day. I love for my Detroit boy to take home the gold, but he failed and came up short. Now I think it's time for him to hang it on up. I think he'll be a good coach and a good trainer for other people. But as of right now, when it comes to Tony Harrison, this should have let him know that we're about done with this sport. It's time to move on and do something else, unless you just want to be a stepping stone or a scalp on somebody's wall in boxing. Not saying that he still can't beat, some good guys he can, but, when you're moving like that, it's time to go ahead and let it go. I appreciate him for what he did do and what he could do. You know what I'm saying? But anyways, that's my thoughts on this. Like, comment, subscribe. I'm out.